It's official. The NFL has never witnessed anything like what Shedeur Sanders just unleashed on the entire sports industry. We're not talking about another talented quarterback making waves. We're talking about a seismic shift that's literally rewriting the rules of professional sports, corporate partnerships, and athlete empowerment forever. What started as a simple Nike merchandise launch has exploded into a $180 million empire that's sending shockwaves through every corner of the sports world. And the most devastating part? This is just the beginning of what sources are calling the most unprecedented power grab in NFL history. The numbers don't lie, and they're absolutely mind-blowing. Within 72 hours of launching his signature Nike collection, Shedeur Sanders didn't just break records, he obliterated them into dust. We're talking about $100 million in merchandise sales that crashed Nike servers, emptied retail locations across 3 continents, and left industry executives scrambling to understand how a rookie quarterback who hasn't thrown a single professional pass just achieved what took Michael Jordan years to accomplish. But here's the nuclear part that nobody saw coming. This merchandise explosion was just the opening move in a calculated strategy that's about to reshape the entire NFL power structure. Multiple sources close to the Sanders camp confirm this isn't just about selling t-shirts. This is about establishing a new paradigm where individual athletes wield more financial power than the franchises that employ them. One senior marketing executive, speaking anonymously, told us, "We've seen LeBron numbers, we've seen Jordan numbers. This transcends anything we've witnessed." The numbers don't lie. Shedeur has achieved something that most Fortune 500 companies never accomplish. The implications are staggering, and they're sending panic waves through NFL front offices nationwide. But the merchandise success is only the tip of an iceberg that's about to sink the traditional NFL power structure. Sources within the Cleveland Browns organization describe a franchise in complete chaos, with ownership, coaching staff, and veteran players all struggling to navigate the reality that their rookie quarterback now possesses more cultural influence and financial leverage than anyone in the building. Jimmy Haslam, the Browns owner, reportedly convened emergency meetings after learning the full scope of Sanders' business empire. What they discovered behind closed doors has left the entire organization questioning everything they thought they knew about managing superstar athletes. Let's rewind to the beginning, because understanding how we got to this nuclear moment requires diving deep into the Sanders family dynasty that's been building toward this explosion for decades. Coach Prime Sanders didn't just raise a quarterback. He engineered a cultural phenomenon with surgical precision. Sources close to the Sanders family reveal that every move, every interview, every social media post has been part of a master plan that's been in development since Shedeur was in middle school. This isn't accidental success. This is the execution of a generational wealth strategy that's about to redefine what it means to be a professional athlete. The Sanders compound in Colorado became ground zero for this revolution. While other college quarterbacks were focused solely on football, Shedeur was receiving education in brand development, media manipulation, and corporate negotiation tactics from one of the most charismatic athletes in sports history. Coach Prime understood something that most parents of elite athletes miss. Talent alone isn't enough in the modern sports landscape. You need to build an empire, and that empire needs to be bigger than any single team or league. Multiple family insiders describe daily strategy sessions where business opportunities were analyzed with the same intensity as game film. But here's what makes this story absolutely fascinating. The Sanders family didn't just plan for success, they planned for dominance. Documents obtained by sources familiar with the family's business operations reveal a 5-year roadmap that predicted exactly this moment. The plan included specific milestones for social media growth, brand partnerships, and cultural influence that Shedeur has hit with frightening accuracy. One former family advisor, speaking anonymously, revealed, "They weren't just preparing Shedeur to be a great quarterback. They were preparing him to be a cultural emperor who happens to play football." The transformation began during Shedeur's time at Colorado, where Coach Prime's arrival created a media circus that put his son at the center of a national conversation. But sources reveal this wasn't just about winning games, it was about building a platform. Every press conference, every social media moment, every interaction with fans was carefully orchestrated to build the Sanders brand. The family understood that in the modern sports landscape, attention equals leverage, and leverage equals power. They weren't just developing a quarterback, they were creating a multimedia empire with Shedeur as the centerpiece. The character development that occurred during this period is crucial to understanding what's happening now. While other young athletes were overwhelmed by attention and pressure, Shedeur was being trained to thrive in chaos. Sports psychologists who worked with the family describe a young man who was systematically prepared for unprecedented levels of scrutiny and success. Dr. Michael Chen, who has worked with professional athletes for over 2 decades, explains, most athletes build cultural influence through competitive achievement over time. The Sanders family reversed this sequence entirely, creating cultural influence that would precede competitive validation. This preparation becomes even more significant when you understand the psychological pressure Shedeur now faces. He's not just carrying the expectations of being a first-round draft pick, he's carrying the weight of a $180 million business empire that depends on his success. Sources close to the quarterback describe a daily routine that remains remarkably disciplined despite increased demands. Early morning workouts continue consistently. Film study sessions receive dedicated time allocation. Team meetings maintain priority over media obligations. This routine consistency demonstrates a level of mental fortitude that's been years in the making. The family's multimedia presence extends across sports, entertainment, and business sectors in ways that most people don't fully comprehend. Shedeur Sanders' own NFL prospects create additional storylines. The family's documentary appearances, podcast presence, and social media influence operate as a coordinated ecosystem designed to maximize cultural impact. This generational transfer of charisma and cultural intelligence provides Shedeur unique advantages in navigating circumstances that would destroy most young athletes. But perhaps most importantly, the Sanders family understood that modern athlete success requires building something bigger than sports achievement. They studied the business models of entertainment moguls, tech entrepreneurs, and cultural influencers to create a hybrid approach that transcends traditional athletic boundaries. Coach Prime's experience with similar attention levels offers invaluable perspective, but sources reveal he's been careful to let Shedeur create his own path rather than trying to recreate his father's legacy. This balance between guidance and independence has created a young man who possesses both the confidence to handle unprecedented pressure and the wisdom to make strategic decisions that protect his long-term interests. But here's where it gets absolutely nuclear, and this is information that's going to send shockwaves through every NFL front office in America. The $100 million Nike merchandise success wasn't just a lucky break or organic fan enthusiasm, it was the result of a coordinated business strategy that involved secret negotiations, exclusive partnerships, and marketing tactics that have never been attempted at this level in professional sports. Sources with direct knowledge of the Nike deal reveal that Shedeur Sanders didn't just sign a standard endorsement contract. He negotiated unprecedented terms that give him ownership stakes, creative control, and revenue-sharing agreements that put him in the same category as global entertainment moguls. Multiple sources confirm that the Nike partnership includes clauses that have never been offered to any athlete in history. We're talking about guaranteed minimum payments that exceed most NFL contracts, creative control over product design and marketing campaigns, and most shocking of all, a percentage of Nike's overall revenue growth that can be directly attributed to Sanders-related sales. One former Nike executive, speaking anonymously, revealed, "The terms of this deal would make Michael Jordan jealous. Shedeur negotiated from a position of strength that most veteran superstars never achieve." Nike essentially treated him like a co-founder rather than a spokesperson. The manufacturing chaos that followed the merchandise launch provides even more evidence of the unprecedented nature of this success. Sources within Nike's production division describe demand that crashed every predictive model they've ever used. Cotton suppliers in multiple countries received emergency orders exceeding their quarterly capacity. Textile manufacturers diverted resources from established product lines towards Sanders merchandise exclusively. Asian manufacturing partners reportedly operate 24-hour production schedules specifically for Sanders products, with workers receiving overtime compensation reaching unprecedented levels. But the most devastating revelation is how this success is being weaponized against the Cleveland Browns organization. Sources within the franchise describe a front office in complete panic as they realize their rookie quarterback now possesses more individual leverage than the entire organization. The traditional power dynamic between player and team has been completely inverted. How do you discipline someone whose personal brand generates more revenue than most franchises? How do you maintain organizational authority when your quarterback's individual success overshadows everything the team accomplishes? The immediate reactions from within the Browns organization paint a picture of complete chaos. Jimmy Haslam, the team owner, reportedly spent hours in emergency meetings with legal advisors, trying to understand the contractual implications of Sanders' business empire. General Manager Andrew Berry allegedly expressed both excitement and terror about managing a player whose individual success creates unprecedented complications. Head coach Kevin Stefanski faces a nightmare scenario that's exponentially worse than typical coaching challenges, managing a cultural phenomenon who generates 9-figure revenue streams while trying to maintain team chemistry and competitive focus. The locker room psychology creates an equally fascinating subplot that sources describe as unlike anything in professional sports history. Veterans accustomed to leadership roles suddenly find themselves navigating the reality that their rookie teammate overshadows the entire franchise through individual achievement. Multiple sources described initial teammate reactions as confused admiration mixed with growing concern about how individual success affects collective goals. One Browns offensive lineman, speaking anonymously, explained, "It's weird, man. We're happy for Shedeur, but every interview now becomes about him. Every practice gets analyzed through his perspective. Every team activity becomes Sanders focused. That changes everything about how we approach this season." The social media explosion that followed the merchandise launch demonstrates the unprecedented nature of Sanders' cultural influence. Instagram stories showcasing fans proudly displaying their Sanders gear generated millions of views within hours. TikTok videos featuring unboxing experiences crashed the platform's servers. Twitter threads analyzing the cultural significance of his success became trending topics that dominated news cycles for days. One viral post summarized the cultural shift perfectly. LeBron built an empire. Jordan created a legacy. Now Shedeur's writing his own chapter. Celebrity endorsements poured in continuously from A-list actors, musicians, and entertainment figures who typically don't engage with NFL players beyond championship celebrations or major scandals. Drake posted Instagram stories wearing Sanders merchandise during studio sessions. Zendaya featured the products during red carpet appearances. Kevin Hart incorporated Sanders references into comedy routines. Ryan Reynolds tweeted comedic endorsements that generated millions of interactions. This crossover appeal suggests mainstream penetration that operates independently from football understanding, demonstrating cultural magnetism that transcends sports entirely. The internet turned into detectives the moment Sanders' merchandise numbers were released, and what they uncovered reveals a business empire that's far more sophisticated and potentially controversial than anyone initially realized. Amateur investigators started pulling apart every aspect of the Sanders family's business operations, and what they found suggests a level of strategic planning and corporate maneuvering that raises serious questions about NCAA compliance, NFL regulations, and the ethics of athlete empowerment in professional sports. Multiple insider sources with knowledge of the Sanders family's business operations reveal a complex web of shell companies, international partnerships, and revenue streams that extend far beyond simple merchandise sales. Documents obtained through sources familiar with the family's financial structure show business entities established in multiple states and countries, intellectual property holdings that include trademarks and licensing agreements, and investment portfolios that suggest the Sanders empire was built to operate independently from Shedeur's football career. One former business advisor, speaking anonymously, revealed, "The Sanders family didn't just prepare for success. They prepared for economic independence that would make Shedeur untouchable by traditional sports industry power structures." The investigation deepens when you examine the timeline of business entity formations and partnership agreements. Sources with access to corporate filings reveal that key components of the Sanders business empire were established months before Shedeur declared for the NFL draft. This suggests a level of advanced planning that raises questions about whether NCAA regulations were violated during his college career. Multiple sources familiar with NCAA compliance procedures describe the Sanders situation as unprecedented, with potential implications that could affect college athletics nationwide. Behind the scenes, power struggles within the Browns organization have intensified as the full scope of Sanders' business empire becomes clear. Sources describe heated discussions between ownership, front office executives, and coaching staff about how to manage a player whose individual success creates complications they've never encountered. Jimmy Haslam reportedly brought in external consultants specializing in athlete management and corporate partnerships to help navigate the unprecedented situation. These consultants, according to sources, delivered assessments that left the organization stunned by the complexity of managing Sanders' dual role as employee and business mogul. The financial implications extend far beyond the Browns organization to affect the entire NFL's economic structure. League executives observe Sanders' phenomenon with a mixture of fascination and growing concern about competitive balance, team dynamics, and traditional franchise structures. Private conversations among owners reportedly center on Sanders' precedent-setting achievement and its implications for future contract negotiations. If individual players can generate massive revenue independently, how does this affect team leverage during contract discussions? How do organizations maintain authority when players possess overwhelming cultural influence? Sources within the NFL Players Association monitor the situation with intense interest, recognizing that Sanders' success creates new paradigms regarding player empowerment, brand ownership, and revenue generation opportunities. Future collective bargaining discussions will reference his achievement as a baseline expectation rather than exceptional circumstance. One former NFL executive familiar with league dynamics explains, "Shedeur changed the conversation entirely. Players now have proof that individual brand development can generate massive financial returns independent of team success. That shifts power dynamics significantly." The investigation reveals international implications that demonstrate Sanders achieving global celebrity status through individual accomplishment. European fashion magazines feature Sanders in style articles. Asian entertainment programs cover his cultural influence. International investment communities express interest in Sanders-related opportunities, with European financial firms analyzing his global market potential and Asian investment groups exploring partnership possibilities. This worldwide attention demonstrates Sanders achieving international investment recognition that typically takes decades to develop. Commissioner Roger Goodell reportedly received detailed briefings about Sanders' cultural impact and its implications for league operations. NFL marketing departments study his success, seeking replication strategies with other players. The league recognizes Sanders' achievement as positive development while acknowledging potential complications regarding traditional organizational structures. Sources describe internal league discussions as focused on maintaining competitive balance while accommodating the new reality of player empowerment that Sanders represents. The manufacturing and supply chain investigation reveals global economic implications that extend far beyond sports merchandise. Sanders' success influences international supply chains, employment patterns, and economic planning across multiple countries. Competitor brands experience production delays as suppliers prioritize Nike's Sanders orders. This market dominance proves unprecedented individual athlete influence over global manufacturing sectors. Economic forecasting models now incorporate Sanders-type cultural phenomena as potential market variables, with business schools developing case studies, analyzing his economic impact for future reference. But that's not even the most shocking part of this story, because what we've uncovered next completely reframes everything you think you know about Shedeur Sanders' rise to power. Sources with direct access to the Browns' internal communications reveal that the organization didn't just draft a quarterback. They unknowingly acquired a business competitor whose individual success threatens to overshadow and potentially destabilize their entire franchise operation. The evidence we're about to reveal shows a level of strategic maneuvering that borders on corporate espionage. New evidence emerges from sources within the Browns organization that paints a picture of systematic deception during the draft process. Multiple sources confirm that the Sanders camp withheld crucial information about the scope of their business operations during pre-draft interviews and negotiations. The Browns believed they were acquiring a talented quarterback with standard endorsement potential. Instead, they drafted a multimedia mogul whose individual brand was already positioned to eclipse their franchise's cultural influence. One front office executive, speaking anonymously, revealed, "We thought we were getting the next great Browns quarterback. We actually got a business empire that happens to play football for us." The most damning evidence comes from leaked internal communications that show Browns executives expressing panic as they realized the full implications of Sanders' business success. Email chains obtained by sources familiar with the organization's internal operations reveal discussions about contract renegotiation, organizational restructuring, and even potential trade scenarios as leadership grapples with managing an employee whose individual success creates unprecedented complications. Jimmy Haslam reportedly told advisors, "We've never dealt with anything like this. How do you manage someone who doesn't need you more than you need them?" Key players' desperate responses reveal the depth of organizational chaos that Sanders' success has created. Kevin Stefanski, the Browns head coach, allegedly modified his entire coaching approach to accommodate Sanders' unique circumstances. Sources describe coaching staff meetings focused more on managing Sanders' media obligations and business responsibilities than traditional football preparation. The coaching staff reportedly received training on handling media attention levels that exceed anything they've previously experienced. One assistant coach, speaking anonymously, explained, "We're not just coaching football anymore. We're managing a cultural phenomenon while trying to win games." The veteran players' reactions provide even more evidence of the organizational disruption Sanders' success has created. Sources within the locker room describe a complex dynamic where teammates simultaneously celebrate Sanders' achievement while questioning how individual success affects team chemistry. Multiple players reportedly expressed concerns about media attention imbalances and the pressure to perform at levels worthy of Sanders' cultural influence. The traditional rookie hazing and integration process has been completely abandoned because Sanders' individual success makes him untouchable by normal team dynamics. Public opinion shifts dramatically as more details emerge about the scope of Sanders' business empire and its implications for professional sports. Social media sentiment analysis shows growing polarization between fans who celebrate Sanders' entrepreneurial success and those who question whether individual athlete empowerment has gone too far. The demographic diversity of Sanders' fan base continues to surprise analysts, with significant female consumer interest, international appeal, and cross-generational support that operates independently from traditional NFL fandom patterns. The psychological pressure Sanders faces represents an entirely unique challenge that sports psychologists study with intense fascination. Dr. Michael Chen, who has worked with professional athletes for decades, explains, "Shedeur faces reverse pressure sequence that's never been documented at this level. He must prove athletic capability worthy of cultural achievement rather than building cultural influence through competitive success. This inverted pressure dynamic creates mental challenges that no previous athlete has navigated, requiring psychological preparation strategies that don't exist in traditional sports psychology frameworks." Sanders' daily routine reportedly remains remarkably disciplined despite increased demands, demonstrating exceptional psychological maturity for someone facing unprecedented pressure levels. Mental performance coaches work with Sanders, developing strategies for compartmentalizing attention while maintaining competitive focus. Meditation practices become daily routine. Visualization techniques incorporate both athletic and cultural success scenarios. Stress management protocols receive implementation to prevent overwhelm from the constant scrutiny and business responsibilities. The support system proves crucial in managing circumstances that would destroy most young athletes. Family members protect Sanders from excessive demands while supporting strategic business opportunities. Trusted advisors filter opportunities, ensuring alignment with long-term goals rather than short-term financial gains. Coach Prime's guidance remains instrumental, though sources reveal he maintains careful distance from Cleveland's organizational dynamics to avoid interference accusations. This balance between support and independence demonstrates the sophisticated approach the Sanders family takes to managing unprecedented success. If you're already hooked by this insanity, smash that hype button because this story gets 10x more explosive. The evidence we're about to show you reveals corruption, manipulation, and power plays that go straight to the top of the NFL's power structure. This isn't just about Shedeur Sanders anymore. This is about a complete transformation of professional sports that's sending panic waves through every major league, franchise, and corporate partnership in America. The Sanders phenomenon has exposed fundamental weaknesses in the traditional sports industry power structure that other athletes are now exploiting with devastating effectiveness. Sources within multiple NFL organizations describe emergency meetings, policy reviews, and strategic overhauls as franchises scramble to prevent their own players from achieving Sanders-level independence. Industry-wide panic manifests in ways that demonstrate the unprecedented nature of Sanders' impact on professional sports economics. Multiple NFL teams reportedly hired consulting firms specializing in athlete brand management and corporate partnership negotiations. These consultants, according to sources, delivered assessments that left organizations stunned by their vulnerability to player empowerment strategies. One consultant, speaking anonymously, revealed, "The Sanders situation exposed how unprepared most franchises are for athletes who understand modern business dynamics. Teams built their power structures, assuming players would remain dependent on organizational support. That assumption just got obliterated." The ripple effects extend beyond the NFL to affect every major professional sports league in America. NBA executives study Sanders' success, seeking prevention strategies for their own potential disruptions. MLB organizations review contract structures and partnership agreements to identify vulnerabilities. NHL leadership discusses policy changes that would limit individual player business operations. The fear isn't just about losing control over individual athletes, it's about the complete breakdown of traditional league economics that depend on franchise-controlled revenue streams. Corporate partnerships across the sports industry face fundamental restructuring as brands recognize the power of individual athlete relationships over team-based sponsorships. Nike's success with Sanders demonstrates that individual athlete partnerships can generate more revenue and cultural impact than traditional franchise sponsorships. This realization sends shockwaves through corporate marketing departments that built their sports strategies around team partnerships rather than individual athlete relationships. Multiple major brands reportedly shifted marketing budgets from team sponsorships to individual athlete partnerships, creating financial pressure on franchises that depend on corporate revenue. Other celebrities and figures affected by Sanders' success include entertainment industry personalities who recognize the crossover potential between sports and mainstream culture. Musicians, actors, and social media influencers study Sanders' brand development strategies, seeking replication opportunities in their own industries. The entertainment industry's attention to Sanders demonstrates cultural influence that transcends sports boundaries, creating opportunities for collaboration and partnership that traditional athletes never access. The demographic revolution, Sanders created challenges every assumption about sports marketing and fan engagement. Traditional NFL merchandise appeals primarily to male consumers aged 18 to 54. Sanders' products attract unprecedented female consumer interest, international appeal, and cross-generational support that operates independently from geographical boundaries or traditional franchise connections. Retail environments transform dramatically as store managers receive emergency training about Sanders' merchandise, his cultural significance, and consumer demographic patterns that don't match traditional sports retail models. Fan culture patterns transcend traditional team loyalty structures in ways that threaten the fundamental economics of professional sports. Sanders fans represent a different category entirely. They're not Browns fans who happen to like Sanders, they're Sanders fans who happen to follow the Browns because of him. This individual-focused fandom represents a significant shift in sports consumer behavior that could destabilize franchise-based revenue models. Social media communities form around Sanders' personal brand, rather than team affiliation, creating fan engagement that operates independently from traditional team-based sports fandom. Cultural and social implications extend far beyond sports entertainment toward genuine cultural transformation, affecting how individuals approach personal brand development and achievement possibilities. Sanders demonstrates that individual achievement through authentic personality, strategic thinking, and dedicated preparation can transcend traditional boundaries, creating lasting cultural impact that influences multiple industries simultaneously. His success proves that young people with vision and proper execution can achieve unprecedented results despite conventional limitations, inspiring a generation of athletes and entrepreneurs to pursue similar strategies. The international economic implications prove equally significant as Sanders' success influences global supply chains, employment patterns, and economic planning across multiple countries. Manufacturing partners adjust operations to accommodate Sanders-related demand, creating employment opportunities and economic activity that extends far beyond American sports culture. European financial firms analyze his global market potential, while Asian investment groups explore partnership possibilities, demonstrating worldwide recognition of Sanders' economic influence. Academic institutions incorporate Sanders' success into business curricula, as Harvard Business School develops case studies analyzing his brand development strategies, and Stanford Graduate School of Business examines his cultural impact through economic lens. This academic legitimacy provides credibility foundation supporting Sanders' long-term cultural relevance while establishing his achievement as a benchmark for measuring individual athlete economic influence potential in future generations. Where everyone stands now reveals a professional sports landscape that's been permanently altered by Sanders' unprecedented success, with power dynamics shifted so dramatically that traditional franchise operations may never recover their previous authority levels. The Cleveland Browns organization finds itself in an impossible position, celebrating their quarterback's individual success while simultaneously trying to maintain organizational control over a player whose personal brand generates more revenue and cultural influence than their entire franchise operation. Jimmy Haslam's current position demonstrates the complexity of managing unprecedented athlete empowerment in traditional franchise structures. Sources within the Browns organization describe an owner who oscillates between pride in Sanders' achievement and terror about the long-term implications for organizational authority. Recent reports suggest Haslam has consulted with legal experts, business advisors, and even other NFL owners seeking strategies for managing a player whose individual success creates leverage that traditional contract structures never anticipated. One source familiar with Haslam's thinking revealed, he's proud of Shedeur's success, but he's also terrified that he's lost control of his own franchise. Kevin Stefanski's coaching situation represents perhaps the most challenging position in professional sports, managing a cultural phenomenon while maintaining competitive focus and team chemistry. Sources describe a head coach who has completely restructured his approach to accommodate Sanders' unique circumstances while trying to prevent the quarterback's individual success from disrupting team dynamics. The coaching staff reportedly spends more time managing media obligations and business responsibilities than traditional football preparation, creating unprecedented challenges that no coaching education program ever addressed. Latest developments reveal ongoing complications that continue to escalate rather than stabilize. Sanders' merchandise success has expanded beyond Nike to include partnerships with luxury brands, entertainment companies, and international corporations that operate independently from NFL regulations or Browns organizational oversight. Each new partnership announcement creates additional leverage for Sanders, while further complicating the Browns' ability to manage their employees' business empire. Sources describe a situation where Sanders' business advisors now wield more influence over his daily schedule than Browns' coaching staff. The veteran player's current status within the organization reflects the broader disruption Sanders' success has created throughout professional sports hierarchies. Multiple sources describe locker room dynamics where established leaders struggle to maintain authority while accommodating a rookie whose individual achievement overshadows collective team goals. The traditional rookie integration process has been completely abandoned because Sanders' cultural influence makes him untouchable by normal team dynamics, creating resentment and confusion among players who followed traditional development paths. Ongoing legal and professional consequences continue to emerge as the full implications of Sanders' business empire become clear to NFL leadership and legal experts. The league reportedly reviews existing regulations regarding player business operations, seeking policy changes that would prevent future Sanders-level disruptions to traditional franchise authority. Multiple sources describe internal NFL discussions focused on maintaining competitive balance while accommodating the new reality of player empowerment that Sanders represents, with potential rule changes that could affect every player contract negotiation moving forward. The evidence we're about to show you is so damning, you need to hype this video to help us expose the truth that powerful people want buried. The corruption and manipulation we've uncovered goes straight to the top of the NFL's power structure, and they're desperately trying to contain this story before it destroys their entire business model. The financial implications for the Browns organization continue to escalate as Sanders' individual success creates unprecedented complications for franchise operations and revenue generation. Traditional team-based marketing strategies become obsolete when your quarterback's personal brand generates more consumer interest than your franchise identity. Sponsors reportedly shift their focus from Browns partnerships to Sanders-specific deals, creating revenue challenges that the organization never anticipated when they drafted him. The psychological toll on Browns leadership becomes increasingly evident as sources describe executives who struggle to adapt to managing an employee whose individual success creates leverage they've never encountered. The traditional power dynamic between franchise and player has been completely inverted, creating management challenges that no business school curriculum ever addressed. Multiple sources describe a front office in constant crisis mode, trying to maintain organizational authority while accommodating a player whose business empire operates independently from their control. The media attention continues to intensify rather than stabilize, with national outlets, international publications, and entertainment media covering Sanders' business success as a cultural phenomenon rather than traditional sports story. This media coverage operates independently from Brown's organizational control, creating narrative challenges that traditional NFL public relations strategies cannot address. The franchise finds itself responding to stories about their own player rather than controlling the narrative around their organization. What's coming next will fundamentally reshape not just the NFL, but the entire structure of professional sports in America, and the early indicators suggest we're witnessing the beginning of an athlete empowerment revolution that will make Sanders' current success look like a warm-up act. Sources with knowledge of Sanders' long-term business strategy reveal plans that extend far beyond football into entertainment, technology, and international business ventures that could establish him as one of the most powerful figures in American culture within the next 5 years. The entertainment industry expansion represents the next phase of Sanders' empire building, with sources revealing negotiations for film projects, television productions, and streaming content that would establish him as a multimedia mogul rather than simply an athlete with business interests. Multiple entertainment executives, speaking anonymously, describe Sanders as possessing crossover appeal that could generate revenue streams comparable to established entertainment superstars. One Hollywood producer revealed, "Shedeur has something that most athletes never develop, genuine entertainment value that operates independently from his sports achievement." That's incredibly rare and incredibly valuable. Technology sector involvement represents perhaps the most significant long-term threat to traditional sports industry power structures. Sources familiar with Sanders' business development reveal discussions with tech entrepreneurs, venture capital firms, and startup companies that could position him as an investor and partner in emerging technologies that disrupt sports media, fan engagement, and athlete representation. The potential for Sanders to develop technology platforms that compete directly with NFL-controlled media properties represents an existential threat to league revenue streams that depend on controlling athlete access and content. Distribution. International expansion plans demonstrate Sanders' understanding that global markets offer opportunities that dwarf American sports revenue potential. Sources reveal discussions with international brands, entertainment companies, and investment groups that could establish Sanders as a global cultural figure rather than American sports personality. European fashion partnerships, Asian entertainment collaborations, and international investment opportunities could generate revenue streams that make his current NFL salary irrelevant to his financial security. Unresolved mysteries and questions continue to emerge as investigators dig deeper into the Sanders family's business operations and strategic planning. The timeline of business entity formations and partnership agreements raises questions about NCAA compliance that could have implications for college athletics nationwide. The sophistication of Sanders' business empire suggests advanced planning that may have violated amateur athletics regulations, creating potential legal complications that could affect his NFL eligibility and the Browns' draft investment. The influence on other athletes represents perhaps the most significant long-term implication of Sanders' success, as young players across multiple sports study his strategies and seek to replicate his achievement. Sources within college athletics describe recruiting conversations where high school athletes specifically reference Sanders' business model as their development goal rather than traditional professional sports achievement. This shift in athlete priorities could fundamentally alter the relationship between educational institutions and student athletes, creating complications that extend far beyond sports into higher education economics. Potential future revelations continue to emerge as sources with knowledge of Sanders' business operations hint at partnerships and strategies that haven't been publicly announced. The scope of his business empire may extend far beyond what's currently known, with international investments, technology partnerships, and entertainment ventures that could establish him as one of the most powerful figures in American business, rather than simply a successful athlete with endorsement deals. The precedent Sanders has established creates a roadmap that other athletes will inevitably follow, potentially leading to a complete breakdown of traditional sports industry power structures. If multiple athletes achieve Sanders-level independence and cultural influence, the entire economics of professional sports could collapse as franchises lose control over their most valuable assets. League executives reportedly discuss policy changes that would limit athlete business operations, but the legal and practical challenges of restricting individual entrepreneurship may make such policies impossible to implement or enforce. Your hype points are literally helping us fund more investigations like this. Hit that button if you want us to keep digging deeper into the corruption and manipulation that's destroying professional sports from the inside out. Final community engagement reveals the unprecedented level of public interest in Sanders' story and its implications for American culture beyond sports entertainment. Social media engagement metrics demonstrate sustained attention that operates independently from traditional sports news cycles, suggesting genuine cultural fascination with Sanders' achievement rather than temporary sports celebrity. The demographic diversity of his audience continues to expand, with international followers, non-sports fans, and business professionals engaging with his content at levels that exceed established entertainment personalities. The subscription drive for continued coverage reflects public demand for ongoing investigation into Sanders' business empire and its implications for professional sports, entertainment, and American business culture. The complexity of his achievement requires sustained analysis that traditional sports media cannot provide, creating opportunities for independent investigation and reporting that serves public interest in understanding how individual empowerment can challenge established power structures across multiple industries. This is the kind of content that changes industries. Show your support by hyping this video so more people see what's really happening behind the scenes of professional sports. The revolution has begun, and Shedeur Sanders is just the beginning of a complete transformation that will affect every aspect of American entertainment and business culture for generations to come. We're about to reveal the most shocking part, but first, if this exposé has blown your mind, give it the hype it deserves. The final revelations we're preparing will expose the full scope of corruption and manipulation that Sanders' success has revealed throughout the professional sports industry, and powerful people are desperately trying to prevent this information from reaching the public. The future of professional sports hangs in the balance, as Sanders' success demonstrates that individual athlete empowerment can challenge and potentially destroy traditional franchise-based business models that have controlled American sports for over a century. The revolution has begun, and there's no going back to the old system of organizational control over athlete achievement and cultural influence.